Good afternoon and welcome to the post-lunch session of the Security Watch India conference here at the Hotel Lalit, New Delhi, December 9, 2009. And with me I have the honor of interviewing Mr. Firoz Zia Hussain, who is the CEO of Totem International. And welcome to the conference, Mr. Hassan. And we'd like to inform our viewers that Totem International is one of our associated partners, and we are thankful for the support of Mr. Hassan, indeed, Totem International, for this event. So, we'd like to know, given the fact that you have served with the government services, specifically the Indian Police Service, what has been the experience of someone who has grown up in the regular college system of the country, received a privileged education, gone on to serve a distinction in the IPS? How have you traveled from your educational background into implementing security solutions, or rather actually administering security for the state of Pondicherry? How do you see from the common man's view and the policeman's view, how are their views really different?
Well, I had a fairly long career, a very diverse career, I would say. I started off as an engineer, electronics and communication engineer, went on to work in the printed circuit board industry for almost more than 5-6 years, after which I joined Pondicherry Police Service, and thereon my career in police started. I would have spent time equally in for law and order duties, for headquarters, for CID, for various special operations. I was also lucky to have been trained by the FBI during 2006 when I had gone for an exchange program of the US State Department. Then on, what we thought is that there's a lot of demand now for the security industry professionals and innovative security solutions. So that's how the thing was there in me, and being an electronics engineer, I thought that we should be able to implement a lot of innovative solutions, technological solutions in electronic surveillance, in security, which moves away from the simple formula of a police which wields a stick and manages crime and law and order by only a stick. You see, because the whole security scenario, being a global security problem, has undergone a tremendous change over time. Today, the private security industry is actively involved in providing solutions, whether it is relating to electronic surveillance, whether it is relating to explosive detection technologies, and it is not just those products. How to be able to do, supposing in the jungles, how do we able to spot and track some of the terrorists? How are we able to protect our own forces from terrorist attacks when you are in a terrain like in the jungle? So there's urban warfare, there is jungle warfare, there is different kinds of problems which India has. And of course, combined with that, because the world is flat now, you have the global problems which come in, and the problems due to our neighbors. So the journey now has become basically in being able to provide innovative, creative solutions for police with the help of, but at the same time we are trying to make best use of technologies, whether it is from US or from Israel or from Japan, to be able to design systems so that the chances of an error is marginalized.
One of the things that we have learned from our interaction with Indian police, whether state police forces or indeed other central paramilitary forces, is that India does not really have the budget at the grassroots level in remote corners or locations where there are Naxalites or there are other problems. Certain well-equipped units, like say the NSG or the SPG, might have state-of-the-art weapons and technology and electronic systems. But how do we ensure that such solutions that you're talking about can be made cost-effective so that they can actually trickle down to the state-level policemen?
So that is where the work of the system integrators are, so that we do not just copy a model which is there in the US, we do not just copy a model which is there in Japan. We think of what is the ground realities. There may be places where there's the camera is there in the outdoor, and there's sun, there's rain. In some places there may be no electricity, so it may have to run on a solar panel, and even some of the wireless sets may have to run on a battery operated system. So it's at that time the ingenuity of the system integrator comes into a picture, that he is able to configure it in a manner so that even somebody in a remote police station is able to use it well and use it effectively, and also the budget or the cost of it. Basically, nowadays, as far as cost is concerned, gradually there's a shift that whatever is required for security has to be done. If it is bulletproof jackets, it is definitely required. If it is surveillance cameras, if it is night scopes, it is thermal scopes. For if it is required, then it is definitely provided. The question is how to be able to configure the solutions in the right manner, so that the expenditure, whatever is done, is not wasted away in lying in the inventory and the stores. Whatever equipment is bought must be used and used effectively against the terrorists or the other criminals.
Moving on to questions of policy and public-private partnership. You've served with the government and now you're in the private sector, you're running your own organization. Why is it that in the security sector we are unable to have such vibrant public-private partnerships just as we have in the other sectors such as the airport sector, the maritime, the toll bridges, the roads, etc.? Why is that not working out?
Well, as we see from after independence, a lot of the infrastructure has now come into the industry, has now come in the private hands. Before independence, most of the critical infrastructure, whether it is power plants, whether it is steel plants, whether it is ports, airlines and everything else, was always with the government. So the necessity of the private sector to get into security was not at all there. So the public-private partnership concept was probably not at all required, because it was all in the hands of the government sector. So it's only now with the liberalization and with things like airlines, the ports, even such other nuclear power plants which are coming up in the private sector, that there's a requirement for sensitization and awareness in the private sector. And along with this, because unless there's a cooperation between the police and the private sector, it is really not possible to guard a refinery. It is really not, because the threats which a refinery may have could be from the sea. And if we are only talking of security guards, deploying security guards by the given company in the premises, that may not really solve the problem. So that's where the private sector has to pitch in, understand the problems, and accordingly work along with the government in providing necessary cameras, necessary thermal cameras, necessary maritime monitors like radars and other such equipment to be able to detect if there's anything coming from beyond its border.
What sort of solutions is Totem offering right now, and what sort of businesses or business opportunities are you looking for in the oil and gas sector, in the power sector, the sectors and aviation sector, the sectors that we cater to?
Well, Totem is relatively new as far as providing solutions is concerned. We have started off with providing some very basic gear, things for safety products, things like Nomex dungarees, which are absolutely mandatory for somebody who's working in a refinery, things like SWAT boots, which are necessary for commandos or the people who are guarding a given premises to be wearing the right uniform, whether it is bulletproof jackets or SWAT boots. Going beyond that, we are also configuring solutions, whether it is CCTV solutions and surveillance and monitoring. Electronic monitoring industry is going for a real leapfrog right now, because earlier the concept of electronic monitoring was not really there. But if you see today, whether it is Britain or China or the US, the moment a crime happens, they are able to spot, even if the person landed probably 4 years back in the US, they're able to spot when he landed at the airport, which all restaurants he went, which cities he went, which cars he used, which credit cards he used. So that is the kind of solution which people are looking for. Of course, we've not been able to really provide the complete thing, but we're making an attempt to be able to give them something which will be able to, which is cost effective and yet give a comprehensive solution as far as the premises is concerned.